Familiar number 13, one of the greatest to hit the ice in the NHL, and certainly for the Maple Leafs, Matt Sundin, sharing a lot of details of his life and career, which has previously been left untold, and he's sharing those memories in his memoir. It's out today. There it is. Home and away. Matt Sundin, welcome to CP24 Breakfast. So good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've got to ask you about this book. I just finished reading it last night, and it takes you all the way back to Sweden, to your childhood, driving around the country, playing soccer and hockey, chasing your older brothers. But this book here, the idea of writing it, I know you wrote with Amy Stewart as well, but where did the idea come from? And then how long did it take you to put all of this down to paper? Because there's a lot here.
Well, we started last summer, so a little bit over 12 months. I figured if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. I still remember most part of my childhood. And also, obviously, mostly playing with the Leafs for 13 years, 11 years as a captain. Back home, I need to get some more respect from my kids. They don't want to see any old highlights on YouTube.
Right.
So I think if they read this book, they can at least know what kind of career I had and hopefully enjoy it.
It is. It's an enjoyable read. And I mean, you know, so much of the book clearly is centered around your time with the Toronto Maple Leafs, 11 years as captain, scoring, you know, you've got all the scoring records, et cetera here. But when you got the C, I think that really is such a big part of this. You know, the first Swede, Boris Salming, talking about to you and his biggest regret of not accepting that title. What does that mean to your life, that you were not only the first Swedish captain of the Leafs, but for 11 years captaining the biggest team in the league?
Well, it was a big decision because up until then, I think there was no Swedish captains, I think, in the National Hockey League. I think right now there's Victor Hedman for Tampa. There's Niklas Lidström won the Cup, captain for the Detroit Red Wings. But the first guy I called was Boris Salming. He was a big mentor for me when I played for the Leafs. And I called him, I said, Boris, you know, I've been asked to wear the C for the Leafs. He said, and he right away said, you have to accept it. And I said, well, why is that? He said, well, it's the biggest honor you can have in hockey. And even though it's just a letter, it means so much. It gives you a little extra responsibility. And he also regretted not accepted it himself. Yeah,
I love the story you tell about the night you actually got to put that sweater on. That is pretty remarkable. You also, Matt, share a lot of stories about the various coaches you played for, specifically Pat Burns and Pat Quinn, two Pats who had amazing impacts on you here. You really go deep, especially about Pat Burns. I mean, what you learned from him and how you say he was basically one of the best coaches you ever played for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he helped me elevate my game, made me more of a two-way player. He put me more at center. Used to play on the wing at the same time, but he taught me, if you're going to win in this league and you're going to be an impact player, not only score goals and get points, make sure you play a good two-way game, and then you can be one of the good leaders.
Yeah, and you definitely were. What I love about this book, too, you talked about your children already and saying, you know, if they read this book, they'll get to know more about you. We learned more about your upbringing in Sweden with your brothers, you know, your parents, quite a humble family, I think. Your parents driving you all around, the athletic focus you had here. Family is so important to you, it seems to me. Like this book is in part almost feels like a tribute to what they've done for you.
I think a lot of Canadian families, I think, can see similarities from growing up in Canada and having parents being there on the Sunday morning at 7 a.m. for practice. But I also thought that I get the question about what made you an NHL player, what got you there, and I think the support and my parents were very important for me, and to handle getting to Toronto later on in my life, handle the pressure and all that from that. So I was fortunate to grow up in a very safe environment, and I think it helped me play many years in the National Hockey League.
But it's interesting, though, isn't it, Matt? Because you well know that there are some hockey parents that are kind of rabid and almost crazy when it comes to their kids. Your parents weren't like that. They weren't pushing you. They were encouraging you and supporting you, but they didn't, you know, force you.
No, and I think at the end of the day, and there's a lot of research about that too, you know, it's going to get serious soon enough. So once you get into 13, 14, 15, so I think my parents did a really good job, made sure that I kept my passion for the game. I was always a big talent, much bigger than my two brothers. They played a lot of hockey too, but by not pushing me early on, I kept my passion and the drive through my teens too, so that was important.
So let's ask about this. You're now in your retirement, you're 53 years old. In the book, you talk a lot about how you thrived in the spotlight, how you were able to turn off the distractions, whether you were 15 years old at the TV Puck tournament or whether it was on center ice for the Toronto Maple Leafs, always trying to push for a Stanley Cup. Do you miss that? Do you miss that opportunity? Because I assume you don't have that anywhere else in your life kind of right now.
That's the only thing I miss. It's actually getting out for a big game at, you know, that first stride on the ice. You know, there's game time, 20,000 people in the stands. There's people watching on TV. that's when you really get that, you live in the moment, right? And when you're a parent, you're driving around, you're thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow or what happened in the past, but it's impossible to recreate that feeling when you're not playing.
Mm-hmm. And but I bet you don't miss the knots in your stomach, because a lot of this book talks about various points in your career where you were quite nervous going into games. You don't hear players, post-career, you can admit it, I guess.
I think the knot in the stomach is a very important part of getting prepared, right? Mm-hmm. It's your body and your mind saying, now we're getting serious. Yeah. And you do miss it a little bit, right? Because you don't have those moments when you feel, I got to be really sharp. Mm-hmm. Which also means that you don't have time to think about anything else, right? So I miss that knot a little bit too.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Listen, you were at the game last night. What's your assessment right now of the current Toronto Maple Leaf squad that we're looking at here?
You know, it's an impressive group. I think management has done a great job with the additions they made over the summer. You know, the core is great, and I think Craig Berube has done a great job trying to implement a game that's going to make it a long run in the spring. So I really like where they're at right now.
And you know the pressure these players are facing. Do you talk to any of them? Because you know as well as anyone what it's like to sort of try and unfortunately never actually achieve the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I think they all know. Many of the guys now, the core guys have been there for many years. I think they understand what it means. But saying that, there's no hockey market like Toronto. So any players that comes in there, it is a different environment, and you have to live with things, the greatest fan base in the world, but at the same time that comes with a more responsibility than playing in Carolina or somewhere else.
Certainly does. Well, listen, you handled it very well over your time. Good luck with the book. Matt Sundin, pleasure meeting you. Thanks for talking and coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Thank you.